Okay. So, it's review time, because I have put a total of maybe 30 hours in so far between the two versions. My opinion so far is that this is 100% my game of the year. It is, for all intents and purposes, most likely biased, because I have been the biggest Pokemon shill of all time for the past 13 years of my life. So, my game of the year, my only real gripes with the game are that I don't like how some trainer battles will zoom in on your sprite and the opposing trainer sprite, and then it'll fade to black and fade back out, and then the battle will start. I think that's a little annoying. It consumes, like, even though it's only a couple of seconds, it does consume a little bit of time, and it is a bit frustrating. That, and the fact that the early game is just super grindy. Late game, after... Well, not late game, but kind of like mid game, it levels out a little bit. And I haven't beaten Volkner yet, so I don't know how grindy the last portion of the game is going to be. I know that Cynthia's levels are good 15, 16 levels above Volkner's, but I don't really know how grindy the game is going to be. But for this early portion, until you get to Maylene, it is 100%, like, you are going to be spending maybe 8 hours of the game in this early section, like the first two badges up to the third, and then the next 10 hours you get through badge 7, maybe. So I think that's kind of crazy, and it's a little frustrating that, you know, half of my playthrough in Brilliant Diamond was getting to the third gym battle, and then the second half was getting through Candace. So it felt like the first two gyms were a little bit too time consuming, which I don't really get, because I'd think that you'd want the player to kind of sweep through the early portion of the game so that they remain engaged, and then make the later portion the longer portion. That way they're already invested. So I don't really get that. But I mean, this is still a 15-year-old game remade on the Switch, and I think it holds up. I think the music's fantastic. I think the sound design is great. I'm loving the gameplay. A lot of people, myself included to an extent, are frustrated they didn't bring back Mega Evolutions, but I think it's really refreshing to have a Pokemon game that doesn't really have any gimmicks gameplay-wise. It's just regular Pokemon battles. I think that Sword and Shield without Dynamax, it wouldn't feel right, and you'd have a lot of Landorus and Incineroar and Tapu Koko and Urshifu dominating everywhere, which I'm not a big fan of. But with the exception of Garchomp, it seems like this is going to be a much more balanced metagame. And even then, I mean, you got the Fairy type. Sure, Garchomp can learn Poison Jab. Maybe can learn Iron Head through Egg Move. I have no clue. But you do have counters for Garchomp in this game. So I don't think it's too unbalanced. And that's without any gimmicks. And you're obviously not going to see stuff like Kricketune or Butterfree competitively. But I think it's a much more open field. There's a lot more room for creativity in terms of what your team's going to be. Because, I mean, I do think that... I don't think anyone gave a second glance when Pokemon like Luxray were added to Sword and Shield. But now, with Volt Switch, without Incineroar, without Parting Shot, I think that Luxray is one of the premier Intimidate Pokemon in the game. So I think that's awesome. I think that from a gameplay standpoint, this is going to be a fantastic game, and I kind of wish that they did drop Sword and Shield for Diamond Pearl doubles. I wish that was VGC, because this is where I want to go. This is where I want to spend a lot of my time competitively.